Okay guys, so welcome back to the channel. Hope you had a good Christmas, well rested, ready to go again for the new year. Of course, this will be the first weekly analysis of the new year starting from the 2nd of January. On the screen of the pairs will be analyzed today, but make sure you do stay to the end of the video because as always, we do have a bonus pair in store. But yeah guys, let's quit the chit chat. Let's get straight into the analysis. I will be starting with the DXY first. However, of course, I will go through the same pairs as normal, but DXY has hit a big level, which I'm interested at seeing some upside from dollar. I'm still pretty bearish on dollar. I still do think longer term, actually for the most of 2024, I think we're going to see a lot of downside for dollar. However, we have approached this big level here at 101. We can see prior to this, a lot of rejection previously at this area, big moves, and again, this weekly candle, big piercing wick to the downside through the level, struggling to break through. So I do think we can see some upside, some retracement. However, I do think it's just going to be short term. The market is most likely going to print a lower high at some point and come back down and take out these lows, and we could be seeing a lot of downside to be had for dollar. So the areas I'm looking at are this area here, 102,500. I'm looking at 103,500. Potentially, if we have a big move, I'm looking at this high here, closer to 104,500. And again, we might not even get that. The market might decide it wants to break through straight away. But I do think there's a good chance of seeing some upside. So what I'm looking at going into Euro USD, which is basically doing the same thing, but the inverse. So again, if I go to the weekly time frame, you can see pretty much the same level, a lot of rejection, big wick through that same area. Again, I am bullish on Euro USD longer term. I still think Euro coming back to these highs and probably going to go a lot further as well. However, now is not the time to be buying Euro USD. If anything, some short-term sells do look attractive for some longer-term buys later on. So I'm keeping my eye out on some areas I can look to take some long positions. I'm looking at this area here at 1.082. But in the meantime, we might see some nice bearish momentum kick back into the market and potentially some short-term sell opportunities on the way down for us to buy back up later. Of course, we'll see how things play out. We'll play it from candle to candle, but if we can see some nice momentum, we might be able to get back underneath this nice 4H daily level around 1.10105. And this could prove to be a really nice place to look for some selling opportunities for a move down. Again, like I said, I still do think Euro USD is heading higher, but this might give us some shorter term sell opportunities for some buys later on. So keep an eye on the retest of that level, 1.10099. and possibly some buys later on. Again, we're not going to discuss too much this level here because it's very far down and it's probably going to take a long while. Let me actually make that a little bit brighter so you guys can see what those levels are. But yeah, I don't want to discuss the longs at the moment because we're still trading in that strong level of resistance. It's still quite far away for me to be discussing the long opportunities when we're still trading in that area. Let's see how the sales go first. If we hold the level, of course, we potentially could still break through. But this is why I'm eyeing up. This is why I'm eyeing up for Euro USD next week. So keep an eye on the break and retest of that area. Potential some short-term sales for some longer-term buys. Okay, so on to dollar yen. So dollar yen, we've been looking pretty bearish ever since we reacted with that 150 daily weekly level. As we can see, big rejection from that area, failing to hold these swing lows with that trend line. We haven't broken structure just yet. This is still our last higher low, which gave us that big move to the upside. So technically, we're still within that bullish structure. But since we have reacted so aggressively from that high, broken through the trend line, I do think we're probably going to come right back and test that area. We'll see if we break through or not. If we break through, that might mean a lot more downside for dollar yen, potentially these lows. But of course, we'll discuss that at a later date. But at the moment, everything is still looking pretty bearish for dollar yen. So going to next week, still expecting more downside. Like I said, 138 is looking pretty likely for us to get there. So in terms of opportunities, just looking for some more shorts. At the moment, we're kind of dancing at this level of support, trying to break through, but at the same time kind of holding. So I want to see a clean break of this area, showing me that the bears are back in town again, and then we can be looking for some lower highs on a retest at that level. You can see the market has been very consistent with all of these lower highs here on the 4H time frame. So as long as we keep respecting these lower highs, we don't suddenly see a big move higher, breaking through structure, I'm still looking for some shorts. If we do see that happen, I'll kind of will sit on my hands a little bit, see what happens. Maybe we might be having a bigger retracement for then a later sell-off. Of course, we'll analyze that as price action prints. But at the moment, if we can keep with this bearish structure, with this bearish momentum, snap through the lows, a nice retest does make a lot of sense on the retest of 140.982, and then we can plan some sales back down to that 138 level where there might be some short-term buys at. But for now, still pretty bearish on dollar yen. Let's see if we can break the lows and get some more shorts down to 138. Okay, so over to dollar CAD. So dollar CAD, we've had a pretty big bearish move to the downside back into a key level of support. If I quickly scoot to the higher time frames, particularly the weekly time frame, you can see overall inside a big range. We've just rejected the highs, we're back down at the lows again, similar to DXY and similar to Euro USD. We've left that big wick on that weekly candle into this big level here, so potentially could be seeing some upside reacting with this area. Again, it's a big level in a higher time frame. I think eventually dollar CAD will probably find its way breaking through the low and we'll see a big move to follow. But however, we're still holding that same level, so there could be some potential upside here to take advantage of for maybe some sales at a later date, similar to my analysis on the DXY. But at the moment, we're still holding this level of support. We've just pierced it with a nice wick, closed back above the level. So taking that information down into the lower time frames, into the 4H, I'm looking at some short-term buys for some longer-term sell opportunities, and probably some sells back below the level if you can finally get the breakout. But for now, buys do look good. You can see the markets try to break through. Again, one big sell-off as well. I think this was, Friday. Big sell-off to the downside. Now price looks like it could be rejecting that area and get ready for a turn around to the upside. So if we can start breaking through the highs there, we can start looking for some retests of that structure and take some buys. Now I wouldn't be so greedy with the buys with this one. I'm still pretty bearish on the dollar, and everything is looking like we could see some more downside for the dollar. So I wouldn't be so aggressive with the buys here. I'll be more aggressive when we get the sell opportunities. So taking some profit coming back into some of these areas do make a lot of sense to me. Again, depending how you want to manage your trade, that'll be up to you. But coming back into some of these areas, definitely want to be looking to take some profits, which does line up with some of those lows there as well. So 133.583, 134, 134, 700. Those areas look good to take some profit, depending how far you want to push the trade. But yeah, dollar CAD's at a really big level of support, struggling to break through. So if you can see some nice momentum shooting up, breaking through that high at 1.325, that would be nice. And we can probably look for some shorter term buys for some longer term sells in maybe the next coming weeks. So that's the plan for now for dollar CAD. Okay, so on to Euro Pound. So Euro Pound still have a bearish bias for this one, still looking for a big move to the downside. I've had this very big bearish leg to the downside. Now I'm looking at correction and another move low. I did get stopped out for Euro Pound a couple of weeks ago. I didn't trade last week, so it would have been the week before. So I did get stopped out around here. The market has kept pushing up high, still very corrective, at least compared to that bearish leg there. So I still anticipate this as a pullback for the market to go lower. But Euro Pound being Euro Pound is quite a difficult pair to find some really good entries, because it is a quite choppy market. But despite that, I'm still looking at another move lower. So there's two ways you can look to take advantage of some shorts here in Euro Pound. The safe opportunity would be waiting for price to break through some lows first, get a nice break of structure, then drop to your low time frames for your entry. This will give you a slightly safer entry, because at least we're seeing some signs, okay, this bullish trend is over, breaking structure. Now you do expect lower lows and lower highs back to the low. Or you could look for the retest of the level up there, which is around 0.87, which is definitely a big level of resistance. If I quickly scoot back to the daily, you can see it's a big level of resistance. The market's held at resistance before, support previously, and taking that across as well. You can see it's tapped into that area a few times. So definitely is a big level where potentially could be forming that lower high to fall down. I think we have pulled back into the 0.786 as well. Not quite, actually, we just missed it by a few pips. But despite that, we had a pretty big pullback, and you can see the market is holding at 0.618. So it's a good area of confidence, a good level to short from. But of course, this is slightly more aggressive, because this bullish trend could still continue if price wants it to, and continue higher. But of course, much better risk reward up there than shorting down there. So it's up to you guys how you want to tackle this one. Two areas to focus on: the 0.87 level up there. But if we start breaking through some of these lows around 0.86470, also looks like a nice place to stick some shorts in. But I'm still bearish on euro pound, anticipating this is a pullback, get ready for some shorts. So we'll see how price develops next week, but still looking at a bigger move back down to the 0.85 500 region for next week. Okay, so on to Aussie dollar. So for this one, starting to look for some sales. We've come back into a big level at 0.68. If I scoot to the weekly time frame, you can see where we are trading. We've had a big push to the downside, pull back, another push. So we're now back in that low high area where all of this bearish momentum came from. So this is a big level of resistance, which I do actually expect to break eventually based on how the market is moving. I was expecting Aussie dollar to come back into the lows here, but it looks like we have placed another higher low in comparison to that low, which again is a higher low to that low. So it looks like gradually we could be seeing Aussie dollar starting to break high. And if we do break through this 0.68 level, next place I'm expecting price to retest is this area here at 0.71. So we've got a pretty nice range to fill if that does break. However, even if I do expect Aussie dollar to push higher, I cannot be looking for buys in these areas, at least as a swing trade. Of course, day trading, scalping, you find your entries everywhere. But for me as a swing trader, I want to position myself in high time levels of resistance to sell, and same with the high time frame levels of support to buy. This is not the best place to hold trades longer term if we're in such a big level of resistance. So again, similar to Euro USD, similar to dollar CAD, looking for some shorter term opportunities of dollar strength, for some longer opportunities of dollar weakness. So in this area here, I want to see some signs that the market is reversing. We're starting to hold this level, nothing really crazy though. Dropping to the full H time frame, nice move down, but nothing to get me excited. If you can see that momentum continue, keep pushing, maybe even take out this low here on the left, then I'll be interested possibly for some sells. Again, shorter term sales to take price back down again, maybe to find some buys at a later date around 0.66000, and then possibly some buys back up again. Or of course, if you do go and just break through the resistance, then of course now I can look to buy above that area. So I'll see how price develops, but at the moment we're holding on to this 0.68 level. If we can see a nice strong move down, break some structure, then possibly there could be some nice shorts on a retest of this level here, and possibly take some opportunities back down into the next key level, which is around 0.66. Or of course these areas here would be sensible to take some profit at as well, coming back into that high there as well. If I take that across, that is a strong level around 0.66900, let's say. So yeah, Aussie dollar, big level resistance, looking for some shorter term downside for this one. It could end up being a pretty big move, maybe some buys at a later date, but of course I would watch out for that area there as well. So yeah, for now, looking at some downside, keep an eye on a break and retest of that low. Need some nice momentum first. It'll be nice if we can break some structure. Could ride it down to 0.66 or potentially that low, depending how aggressive you want to be with the trade. But we'll be looking for some short-term sells for Aussie dollar next week. Okay, so on to NZD CAD. It's a very choppy price action for this one for quite a while, for about a month now. We've been moving sideways, still kind of start coming into this lower high, but we are trading above a pretty big level in the monthly time frame, above 0.83. Let me just point that out. Pretty substantial level. The market looks like it's coming back above. We have closed above it, and if we can hold this level as support, there's a pretty good chance we're going to see a continuation back to the next key level, which is around the 0.865 0.87 area. So pretty bullish from the high time frames, but we must break out that consolidation to the upside. Of course, we could still do the inverse. We could still break lower, get back underneath 0.83. If that's the case, I'll change my bias, but at the moment we're still resting above it. So I do want to see a confident break of this consolidation, price breaking higher, then we can start looking for some pullbacks and start looking to ride this momentum higher back to 0.865. So that's the plan for NZD CAD, but of course the breakout needs to take place for us to start looking for some buys. Don't want to jump into some buys in these conditions. Anything can happen. If we see a solid break to the upside, taking out those daily swing highs there as well, starting to hold this level as support, I do think we can position ourselves long. Risk reward looks pretty good as well. If you're looking to push your trade back to that next key level, looks pretty good if you can get nice retest and some buys there. Of course, don't need to push the trade that far. There are some swing highs on the left here, which we can consider looking to take profit at, or manage your trade at, show your stop loss, however you're looking to tackle your trade management. But yeah, for me, pretty bullish on NZD CAD, but of course it is pivotal. We do need to break higher past 0.84164, and then we can start looking for some pullbacks. So that's the plan next week for NZD CAD, looking for some buys on the breakout, retest on 0.841, and some continuation back to 0.862. Okay, so up next we've got pound NZD. So pound NZD is looking pretty bearish to me. We're taking out some key lows down here. I am anticipating more downside back to these lows, near enough the 1.98 level. We've had a pretty big level on the higher time frames, particularly the weekly chart, which we failed to hold. This was a big level of resistance, which was holding us support for some time, but price has snapped through that. Very confident weekly candle closure back below from last week. So I do think there is a lot more downside to be had. We've had a big fake out, number one. This was due to COVID. We come back straight underneath. Another big move to the upside. Market didn't hold support. Now we're breaking back below. So I'm expecting a push back to 1.98 and potentially even the low of the range as well. But of course, we'll take it one step at a time. So yeah, looking for some pullbacks now for pound NZD. I've highlighted a couple areas where we can be looking for a retest. It does look like the market's starting to run out of momentum a little bit, and again it is quite corrective as well, so naturally I would want to see a bigger correction, bigger pullback before jumping to any shorts. You can see we're kind of moving in this descending channel, so looking for a bigger push higher. First area of interest 2.03, which of course are these lows here on the left, and we've got some support there on the full H, which will be turn resistance as well around 2.042. So that's kind of the areas I'm looking at to short from, and again potentially you can look to really turn this into a really nice swing trade if you're going to see continuations back to 1.98. But of course, if you want to keep things simple, back to the low makes a lot of sense as well. But this is the plan here for pound NZD. Everything is looking pretty bearish from the higher time frames down. Now it's just us trying to find that good entry, a good level to trade from, and of course manage the trade accordingly. So pound NZD pretty bearish. Let's see if we can get the next pullback. You can see the market's making pretty consistent lower lows and lower highs, looking to continue that trend, continue that momentum. But of course we need to see a pullback first before finding some entry. So keep an eye on 2.03800 and also 2.04200 for some sells back to lows, and potentially 1.98 eventually. Okay, so moving on to CAD Yen. So CAD Yen starting to look bearish. We failed to break through 108, big level here, which the market has used as support many times, now using as resistance. Pretty good chance we're going to see a continuation back to 105. I'm still waiting for this kind of whole consolidation, this whole kind of choppy area to break through. If we can break through 105, 104, 500, then I do think the shorts will really open up, see some really nice bearish momentum for the yen pairs. I think we'll be coming right back down to 101, maybe even further as well. But for now, for next week, we are seeing a pretty big rejection of this area. So if I drop to the full H, you can see we do have some nice momentum here, some nice consecutive lower highs. So as long as we can maintain this, I do think shorts look good. We've got this price swing low here on the left, nice support turn resistance, got some trend line as well, adding to the confluence of this particular area. If we do see another pullback, which may or may not happen, we might just see price kind of just complete the swing of the range there. We might not necessarily come up again, but if that's the case, there could be some more entries. If not, then the next kind of idea setup I'm looking for is if we can break 105 and then some shorts back to 101. So that's the plan for CAD Yen. Still looking at more downside. Still do think the yen pairs are starting to get to their tops, or a place where there might be trades from. I'm not saying they're going to reverse, but a place where we might be seeing some downside for the yen pairs. So still looking to take some shorts for the yen pairs. CAD Yen looks like it's warming up, so keep an eye on 107, 300, we'll call it, for some entries, and targets back at 105 for next week. Okay, so onto pound USD and then the dollar pair. So the idea of looking for some short-term dollar strength or some longer-term dollar weakness is still kind of the theme for the dollar pairs for me. You can see pound USD's had a nice run to the upside, but again, looking a little bit tight. We haven't really seen such a big rejection like we saw with the Euro USD and the DXY and Aussie dollar and USD CAD. We have seen some nice wicks here on the weekly time frame, but not really such a big substantial level like we've seen in the other pairs. But regardless, pound USD does look like it's running out a bit of steam in this bullish trend, so I do anticipate to see a bigger pullback. But longer term, I am still looking for buys back to the swing high here at 1.31 or just above that. So I do think there's a lot more upside to be had for pound USD, but again, looking for some short-term sells, which could be, 100 to 150 pips. So, it might not actually be some short-term sales, might be some really good sales, but I'm looking for some bigger corrections for pound USD. So some sales could be looking good for next week, maybe the week after as well, and then probably some buys later on. But I'm not looking to short just yet. The market is still printing higher highs and higher lows, as we can see. High over there, low, higher high, higher low, and again a higher high. So I want to see pound USD start and give me some lower lows and lower highs, maybe break some structure as well. That would be nice. Then potentially some shorts back down again. Potentially this low doesn't have to be 1.245, but if you can see something like this could be a really nice trade to take advantage of and look to take advantage of that short-term dollar strength. Again, that's my analysis. It doesn't mean it's factual, it's going to happen, but most probably going to see some short-term dollar strength for some long-term dollar weakness. So this is how I kind of plan to take advantage of that if this setup does present itself, and hopefully some buys at a later date. Some areas where potentially pound USD could retrace to before continuing bullish is this level here, 1.24, big level resistance. We may have a slightly deeper pullback to eventually go bullish, something like that. So that could be something that does shape up, but of course we'll talk about that at a later date. For now, still looking to take advantage of some shorter term sells. This is kind of what I'm looking at for pound USD, and targets around the 1.25200 area into this big area of demand where all that bullish momentum came from. And of course we got the daily level just below as well, so you can decide how far you want to take that trade. But yeah, looking for some shorts for pound USD. Keep an eye on some bearish structure if that can develop, and some downside for next week. Okay, so on to pound CAD. So pound CAD is at a interesting area, bit of a crossroad. I am looking to buy pound CAD, but not just yet. I need to see a bit more development in the 4H, which I'll get onto a second. But right now, price is kind of trading at a big level at 1.685. If we can hold this level, recover above it, show some confident bullish price action in the lower time frames, then I'll be more than happy to look for some buys for pound CAD back to the high here at 1.725. If we don't hold this level, we crash back down, something like this, see a big bearish candle kind of engulfing that price action, pushing lower, then I can anticipate some more downside here for pound CAD back to these lows and maybe further as well. So I am looking at a buy, possibly like a bigger inverse head and shoulder pattern. As you can see, we are coming to that area. If we can hold it, there is a good amount of upside potential, but at the moment we're kind of 50-50. If the market's holding the level, it does look like we are starting to consolidate a little bit. So if we can see a strong push higher, breaking through all these wicks, that resistance as well, then we can see some pullbacks. There could be some nice buying opportunities on the lower time frames next week. So that would definitely interest me for pound CAD, because at that point we're comfortably above that level of resistance, support, on the higher time frames. You've got some nice bullish structure to work with, maybe some higher highs and higher lows as such, and we can look for some break and retest, find some entries, and again taking profit along the way. We've got multiple points to be aware of, or take profit at, take partials at, and of course we do have that nice swing point as well we can target. So yeah, for me pound CAD does look good, but I need to see a sharp move to the upside, really tell me that the buyers are back in town, and I'll be more than happy to look for some pullbacks to buy at pound CAD next week. So that is the plan for me for pound CAD going into next week. Okay, so moving on to pound yen. So another yen pair, looking for some more downside. As I mentioned, I do think the yen pairs are getting to prices where they could look to topple over. Pound yen especially, if I quickly go to the weekly time frame, you can see we are showing a lot of signs of exhaustion. We had a really nice break of structure, breaking through those highs. Now the market's starting to tire, a lot of frequent pullbacks, heavy pullbacks. This momentum is not really a good sign of a trend that is healthy, that is free flowing. This is a sign that the trend is likely to not necessarily reverse, but again have a bigger correction, potentially could reverse. Of course, I'm not a fortune teller, but I can tell that now's the time to start looking for some shorts, because there's a good chance we could see a bigger retracement, at least for pound yen. I'm looking for us to come back down to 172, a big level which we haven't really come back to retest on the weekly. So there's a lot more downside, there's a lot more space to the downside, a lot more room to the downside if we are going to fall. However, now's not really the best time to be looking to short, because again, coming back into a big level of support, which actually gave us our prior swing high. So now's not the best time to short. So I'll be waiting for two opportunities, two setups to happen. Either we have a bigger pullback back into the highs near enough 183, place the next swing high, and of course there we can be looking for some shorts fairly high up away from the level. We can take profit on the way down and maybe leave some positions run if we do break the lows. Or of course we can look for price to actually break through the lows first, come back and retest it, find that lower high, and then look to short. Of course, maybe not as a great of risk to reward, but definitely a much safer entry because at least we've kind of broken through that structure completely, and then we can look to short on some nice break and retest. Either which way though, I'm looking to short pound yen. So waiting for one of these two setups to kind of formalize whether we're going to respect the level, pull back up again, or break through. That'll be up to pound yen, but I know my bias. I'm looking to short. Now I'm just waiting for good opportunities to do so. So keep an eye on both of those setups. Either pull back high to near enough 183, or we break the low, come back and retest 178, and then again looking to short all the way back down to 172 eventually. So that's the plan next week for pound yen. Okay, so onto gold. So gold is testing that all-time high resistance. Again, I'm a bit fearful looking to buy gold at these prices. I do think there is a lot of upside potential. I think there's a good chance we'll look to go fill this wick here eventually, similar to the other dollar pairs we've gone through. So Euro USD, Pound USD, there's some swing high targets, which I do expect price to eventually head its way towards to the upside, seeing some dollar weakness. However, now's not the best time to be looking to buy gold. As you can see, we're still comfortably trading inside this big level of resistance on the weekly time frame. We've held a few times. Market just printed another wick to the upside, so now's not the best time for me to look to buy. If again we can clear this level, see the market, create some new highs, and we start, really trending to the upside above this level, and of course some pullbacks, a retest of the high there, that looks like a good opportunity. And again, we've got some nice targets back at the top of the wick around 2150. So the buys do look good if we're above that all-time high resistance. If the market is failing, placing some lower lows, some lower highs, seeing some bearish momentum step in, then the best bet is looking for some counter trend sells and then potentially some longer term buys at a later date, because again, it doesn't really make much sense looking to buy the market at these prices when we're still holding such a big level of resistance. If it does hold, we could actually see a pretty big move down before eventually we might turn bullish, way into the future, maybe a month or two. So for now, gold longer term is still pretty bullish, but I have to say in such a big level of resistance, it doesn't make much sense at me looking to buy. So looking for some counter trend opportunities if we can keep up this bearish structure. Of course, we've got some targets back down at these areas. We've got some targets down at these areas here as well. And of course, this area here too makes for a nice place to take some profit as well. So it's up to you how far you want to push the trade. If I do get into any shorts, I probably won't push it further in this area just because I am still pretty much a gold bull. So I'm actually getting ready for the buys when they do present themselves. So for now, looking for some shorts. Let's see if we can print some lower lows and lower highs. If we do turn bullish, and of course I will be looking for the break and retest the high there. So we'll still stay vigilant for that opportunity if it does come around. And like I said, targets at the swing high, or the wick high I should say, at 2150. But for now, focusing on the shorts. So that's the plan next week for gold. Okay, so onto Bitcoin. So Bitcoin's still kind of consolidating, not really much to do with price action here. Again, still not really a big fan of buying Bitcoin at these prices. We've had a pretty big move to the upside, a monstrous move to the upside to be a bit more exact. We are coming into a big level of supply resistance where we have seen a lot of momentum, a lot of bearish momentum come down from these areas previously. So potentially again we could be seeing a lot of sellers stepping into the market around this area. Therefore doesn't really make much sense looking for buys, especially after such a big run up. So I do want to see Bitcoin take a bit of a breather, break out that consolidation to the downside. There is this nice low around 36k where we briefly stalled for a little bit a few weeks ago. So if you can see a bigger pullback as such to this area, I think the buys look very, very good down there. And possibly there could be some nice short-term sells if we can break confidently out of that consolidation, take some shorts on the way down. So that could be a nice shorter term sell, but I'm not really a big fan of looking to buy Bitcoin at these prices. Even if we do see a successful break of the consolidation, it's just we're coming back into such a big area. Again, shorter term I can understand that, but looking to try and swing Bitcoin from these prices after a big move, I'd rather we wait for a bigger pullback and then place those trades on. So Bitcoin for me still kind of in bearish territory, kind of backing away, price consolidating, equal highs, equal lows. Let's see if we can get a bigger pullback. 36k looks pretty attractive. If we can come back down to those prices, buys look very, very good. And again, in the meantime, there might be some nice sells on the way down as well. If we do see a nice confident break of consolidation, a retest, we can take advantage of those sells. So that is the plan for Bitcoin going into next week. And last but not least, we've got our bonus pair. And for this week, the first week of 2024, we have Pound Aussie. I really like the setup here in Pound Aussie. From a top-down perspective, I think everything looks really, really good. We've had a big move to the upside. Looks like we've had a big, nice head and shoulder reversal pattern. If I highlight those swing points, we've got the left shoulder over there, the head, and a kind of very range bound right shoulder, but it does the job. And now we have had a pretty big break of that structure, break of that neckline. So I do think we're going to see a lot more downside in 2024 for Pound Aussie and its kind of neighboring pairs like Pound NZD, UAD, USD. I'm pretty sure bias for them for the foreseeable future, as long as we maintain that bearish structure on the higher time frame. So for Pound Aussie, looking for a bigger move to the downside into this wick low, eventually these areas here as well. So my job right now is just looking for some good pullbacks to short Pound Aussie. And the best level I can see here is 1.89. We've had a pretty substantial break of that level. The market's looking a little bit tired. I do think if we can see some retracement back into the area, there's a good chance we're going to respect it and continue our bearish journey. So again, you can see having a hard time heading lower. Looks like the market's printing some equal lows here, maybe a bit of consolidation as well. So if we can pop higher, collect some more sellers around these levels here, let's see if we can join the party and take advantage of some more downside back to 1.85 and potentially 1.825 as well. And yeah, I'll be looking to take some partials along the way. But yeah, Pound Aussie to me looks very, very attractive. I'm liking the higher time frames. Now dropping to the 4H, I want to see my pullbacks, and I'll either look to enter on the 4H or maybe the hourly if I can find a slightly better entry. But the overall plan, the overall consensus is still looking to short Pound Aussie and expecting a lot more downside. Next major target 1.85, and then we're looking at 1.825. So yeah, let's see if we can get some pullbacks for next week. And guys, that does bring us to the end of the analysis for the first week of 2024. Let's see what it brings. Looking to start trading, of course, from the second. The first will be a holiday, so no trading for that day. But from Tuesday, we're back amongst it. So let's see what we have in store. Thank you so much for watching the video, guys. If you have found it useful, informative, educational, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't done already. Make sure you do hit the bell as well so you don't miss out any streams or uploads in the future. But guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next one.